This video has been such a long freaking time coming, but it's time to talk about it. Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. I am a little nervous, honestly, for today's video because this video has been a long time coming, but it is time to talk about it, and that is my fitness journey. This is a video that you guys have been asking me to do since the moment that I started putting my life out there on social media. I know that as soon as someone puts their life out there on social media, you want to know, like, what credentials do you have to even give me advice or tell me what I'm supposed to be doing? How do I know you know what you're talking about? So I wanted to really go through what the past like 4, 5, 6 years of my life has looked like, and just kind of talk about how I got to where I am now. So we're fast forwarding it all the way back. I'm gonna pop in pictures when it's appropriate. We're just gonna have a nice little chat about my fitness journey and how I got to where I am now. So it is super important for me to start off by saying that this is my fitness journey. I am not by any means encouraging or telling anyone that they need to follow exactly the way that I did things or the life that I have had up until this point. Your journey is your journey, and this is just simply my journey, and this is the route and this is the way life has taken me up until this point. So I am not by any means putting out this video because I think that you need to be following to a T every single thing that I have done up until this point. No freaking way, Jose. First off, not everything that I've done up to this point is perfect. I've made lots and lots of mistakes along the way, but not even just that. You need to go through your own journey, and this was my own journey. So I needed to start off and preface it with that I am not by any means putting this out here because I think that you need to be following every single thing that I'm doing down to a T. I have always been a super active individual. I have played sports for as long as I can remember. I started playing soccer when I was about 5 or 6 years old, and I have been playing ever since that point. I played at a young age. I played soccer, I played softball, the whole 9 yards. Those are the two sports that I primarily gravitated myself towards, and so I was playing them for years and years on end. I played both intramural and travel soccer and softball at a very young age. So up until probably about high school age, sports were something that I did all of the time. I played soccer all the way through college. When I got into high school, I was working out, but it was solely for the purposes of training for the next soccer season. I would condition during the summers, I would run outside, but literally just to prepare myself for the soccer season ahead. I kind of did that whole thing all throughout high school. I never really had an interest in having muscle or gaining muscle mass or losing weight. That was just never something that was on my radar. My literal and sole goal of working out was just to prepare myself for the upcoming soccer season. And honestly, when I wasn't in season, I wasn't doing a ton. I would work out a lot the summer before a season would start. I would do my preseason for soccer, and then I would play up until probably about October, November, and then things would kind of go on a halt for a little bit. Sure, I played some indoor, sure I did this or that here or there playing soccer, but that was really kind of the extent of my exercise during the course of the winter months. When I wasn't playing soccer, I wasn't doing anything at this point in my life. When I got into college, that's when things started to change for me a little bit. So I went to a small Catholic university, and I did play soccer while I was there. It was a Division III school, so I had the opportunity to play soccer there, and I am so incredibly grateful that I did. So I didn't really have any intention of playing, and then freshman year going in, I kind of decided, let's just do it. I'm super, super grateful that I decided to do that. So once I got into college, things kind of started to change for me. My freshman year, once again, my sole focus was I was getting in shape to play soccer. That was my purpose. I was conditioning and I was exercising to get in shape for the soccer season. I wanted to be in good enough shape to be able to play when I was on this college team. That was all I was doing. All I did was run up until my freshman year of college. Once I started getting into college, my college was very fortunate, and we were able to have a strength and conditioning coach, a program designed specifically for each team that he would work with. So for example, when he worked with us, the soccer team, he would put us through a variety of exercises focused specifically on strength training for soccer. So I had the opportunity to work with him for all 4 years that I was in college. So that was really when I first kind of started to get introduced to weightlifting. I maybe occasionally did it here or there throughout the course of high school but other than that, I was never really introduced to strength training up until that point. So freshman year of college, I was very focused around just training to be in shape, just training to be fit for the soccer season and to be able to be in enough shape to play on the field. I didn't care what I looked like. I thought that I looked absolutely fine the way that I was. I didn't have any body image concerns more than the ordinary. Of course, not one person is confident every single day, day in and day out, and I certainly wasn't at that point either, but I was never focused on that to the point that that was my goal for wanting to work out. My literal purpose for working out at that point in my life was to be in shape for soccer season. Fast forward to sophomore year, that's when things started to take a drastic change for me. I was in a very, very bad mental place sophomore year into the first half, I would say, of my junior year. I developed a very, very disordered way of thinking about food and thinking about exercise. I've talked about this a little bit on my page and on my channel, and I wanted to get into it a little bit more here now that I am talking about my fitness and my health journey. When I went into college and before I went into my sophomore year, I would say I probably weighed about 140 pounds, give or take. That is not by any means a bad number, and that is not to say that anyone who weighs 140 pounds is overweight. In my mind, at the place that I was in my life, I thought 140 pounds was absolutely gigantic. In my mind, sophomore year, I thought that I was the heaviest that I have ever been in my life, and I was the heaviest I had ever been in my whole life. I never have weighed 140 pounds before, and I didn't know how to handle that number that I saw. Once again, I am not saying that that is a bad number, and if you weigh 140 pounds, I am not saying that you are overweight by any means. But when I was at that mental place in my life, that was like the worst number that I could have seen on this scale. Sophomore year is when I really started to get into the gym, and I really started to throw all of my time and effort into losing weight. In my mind, I didn't see anything wrong with what I was doing. I would go to the gym and I would do cardio and I would lift weights, and in my mind, I thought that I was just doing all of that to get in shape for soccer, like I had been doing my whole life. But I knew in the back of my mind, and I can say looking back, that that was not the reason I was doing all of this. What I would do when I went to the gym back in those days, for example, I probably worked out anywhere from, I would say, 5 to 6 days a week. I would go to the gym for probably about an hour and a half to 2 hours for the most part, and I would start off every single workout with either a run on the treadmill or going on the Stairmaster. I would either do, let's say, 30 minutes or 3 or 4 miles on the treadmill, or I would do 30 minutes on the Stairmaster. After that, I would hop onto the elliptical for about 35 to 40 minutes. After that, I would go on the bike for another 20 to about 30 minutes. If it was one of the days that I decided I wanted to lift, I would lift for maybe about 30 minutes, and then I would head out the door. So my entirety of going to the gym took about maybe anywhere from an hour and a half to 2 hours, depending on if I lifted that day. I did abs and I did core every single day that I went into the gym. Without fail, I did an hour and a half of cardio, and I didn't let myself leave until I did that amount. I need to stress that I did all of this while I was still in soccer season. So even while I had an hour and a half or a 2-hour practice later that night, I would go to the gym early in the morning or in the middle of the day in between classes and do an hour and a half of cardio before I had practice later that day. If I had a game, I never worked out the day of. I was pretty strict with that, even through all of this. If I had a game, I didn't do anything in the morning. I wouldn't lift, nothing like that. But I would go to the gym even if I had practice afterwards. In the off season, of course, I was also going, but even while I was in season, had games, had practices, I was doing an hour and a half to 2 hours of cardio and then going to practice as well. If this is something that you find yourself doing now, there's nothing wrong with that. If you're doing it because you like doing it. But I was doing it because I was really, really unhappy. I thought there was something wrong with me. I thought there was something wrong with the way that I looked and the way that I felt. And that is why it's a problem. It's not a problem that I did an hour and a half of cardio every single day. It's a problem because I forced myself to do an hour and a half of cardio every single day. I never allowed myself to leave the gym until I hit a certain number of calories or certain number of minutes on a cardio piece of equipment. If you're going to the gym and you're doing that much cardio because it feels good and you enjoy doing it, that is one thing, but that was not the case for me. And I need to continue to stress that. I am not discrediting anyone's fitness journey who may look similar to my own, but you're enjoying it, just because that was at a place in my life that I was doing it because I literally thought I had no other choice. Sophomore year all the way into the beginning of my junior year looked very similar to that. I would do an hour and a half to 2 hours in the gym every single day. If I was lifting, I didn't really have a workout split. If I would lift, I would kind of just do whatever I felt like doing on that particular day. Maybe I would lift upper body, maybe lower, maybe I would do triceps and biceps, maybe I would do chest. I didn't really have any particular plan when I was in the gym. I would kind of just do whatever I felt like doing. If I felt like I wanted to work on my arms weren't sore, I would do them. If I wanted to do my legs and we didn't have a game for a couple days, then I would do my legs. It really was no rhyme or reason at that point. I would say at that point in my life, I maybe lifted 3 or 4 days a week. No more than that. I did cardio probably 5 or 6 days a week, depending on my game schedule for the week, but I didn't lift every single day. On top of what I was doing in the gym, it's really important for me to talk about also what I was doing outside of the gym. Outside of the gym, I also got really into yoga that year. So I was doing anywhere from about a half hour to 40 minutes of yoga almost every single night. I honestly really liked it, but I really in the back of my mind was just doing it because I wanted to lose weight and to be fit. It wasn't because I liked it. I think yoga has a lot of really awesome benefits that I can sit here and tell you now, but at that point in my life, in my mind, it was just another way to get 30 minutes more of exercise in that wasn't being in the gym. So I could tell myself that I could be in the gym for 2 hours and then do 30 minutes of yoga, and I did 2.5 hours of exercise that day, and that was good enough for me. And so that's why I was doing it. On top of that, I was very restrictive towards what I was eating. My sophomore year in college, I decided for Lent that I was going to give up bread. There was no rhyme or reason behind this. I kind of just love bread, and I figured, maybe it'll be really hard. Let's try it out. And so I tried it, and honestly, it was very difficult for me. I cut out bread, I cut out pizza, I cut out anything that could kind of look like a bread of some form during the course of those 40 days. Lent was over, I decided that it wasn't that bad. I didn't really need bread that much in my life. I decided that I kind of liked the way I felt and the way I looked when I wasn't eating it, and so I continued to not do it. I didn't eat bread for probably... Honestly, I really just started eating it again probably within the last year or so. So up until that point, I was really not eating bread at all. So it continued from my sophomore year in college, right around this time when Lent starts, all the way till about a year ago. So it was about 2 or 3 years that I really cut bread out of my life completely. And not only did I do that, but I was also very restrictive of what I ate. I was in a mental place that I was not very comfortable eating a lot of food. I didn't understand that food was fuel. I didn't know what I knew now. I wasn't in a good place with food the way I was now. I wouldn't allow myself to snack. I wouldn't allow myself to have chips or to have candy or to have sweets, except for on very rare occasions, and it was all very portioned out depending on how much I wanted to eat on that particular day. If I was hungry and I didn't think that it was an appropriate time for me to be hungry, I would drink tea, or I would have water, I would cut up like a couple pieces of fruit, and I would hope that that would hold me over. I ate a ton of salads during this time period, and keep in mind, I still do eat a ton of salads. I love salads. I honestly think that they're delicious, and I did back then, but I wasn't eating salads back then because I absolutely loved them. I was eating them because they were minimal calories, and they didn't make me feel gross. There was a lot of times when I was in college where I would go to the cafeteria, and keep in mind, like, of course, college food is not the best in the entire world, but there would be times where they would have like tacos, or they'd have like rice and something like that, and I didn't think that was a good enough option for me. I didn't think it was healthy enough for me, and so I would make myself a salad from the salad bar, and that's what I would eat. There'd be days where I'd eat that for lunch and for dinner, because that's what I thought were my only healthy options for the day. It like really upsets me to talk about this, so if I'm like kind of trying to take my time and it sounds like I'm kind of just like in a weird place, it's really weird to bring up all of these things, because for a year and a half, 2 years, I didn't see anything wrong with the way that I was living, and it like upsets me to think about that all that time and how unhappy I was with myself and with my body, and there was literally nothing wrong with me. Like, I was fine the way I looked then. I was fine how I was. I don't know why I ever put myself through that and through those things, and I restricted myself in so many ways, and so it is hard for me to talk about. And so if I seem like it's hard, that's why. So I was very, very restrictive about what I ate. I would go out to eat, and because I wasn't eating bread, I would get a burger without a bun, or I would do a lettuce bun, or I would not get fries. I would get a salad on the side. And there's nothing, once again, there's nothing wrong with doing that, but I wasn't doing it because I wanted to do that. I was doing it because I thought that I would be unhealthy and I would be overweight if I got the burger with the bun, or if I ate the fries, or if I let myself eat the cookie, or if I had that second scoop of ice cream. I thought that I would be overweight. I was in a very just bad mental space. During that time period while I was doing all of these things, I ended up losing 15 pounds. That was never initially my intention. I kind of just wanted to feel better. I wanted to feel better about myself. I wanted to feel better about how I looked. I wanted to just be more fit. In my mind, I just wanted to be more in shape. I was unhappy with the 140 pounds that I saw on the scale. I was unhappy about the way that I looked in the mirror, and I just wanted to change that. And so I was doing all of these methods, all of these things, not eating bread, lots of cardio, lifting here and there, working out, playing soccer, doing yoga, not eating that. I ended up losing 15 pounds. So I went from 140 to 125 pounds. And I know that doesn't seem like a lot, but I never really had a lot to lose, in all honesty. And I can say that looking back now, the way that I looked when I was 140 pounds there was nothing wrong with that. Sure, I wasn't toned and I wasn't super muscular and lean, but I wasn't overweight. I just had a little fluff to me because I wasn't toning, I wasn't training my muscles, so how could I? I did all of these things and I lost a lot of muscle in the process. I had very defined abs because I wasn't eating anything that could have made me bloated. So the course of that summer, the sophomore year into my junior year, I looked probably the most fit that I've ever looked up until this point now, where I'm sitting here in front of you, because I was being very, very restrictive about what I was doing. I wasn't doing anything or eating anything that could have made me feel bloated. I was working out a lot. I was doing a lot of cardio, so I was staying very, very tiny. 125 pounds for me is tiny. And I can say that now looking back because I am not 125 pounds anymore. And there's nothing wrong with being 125 pounds, but for me, when I started off at 140, I didn't really have that much to lose, and somehow I made it all the way to 125 pounds. That happened before I went into my junior year of college. It took till probably I was doing and living this way till probably about the middle of my junior year in college, when kind of something hit me. And I was like, I never did any of this to lose weight. I just did it because I wanted to look better. I did it because I wanted to feel better. I did it because I wasn't confident in who I was or anything like that. It wasn't to lose weight. I didn't like the 140, but I never in a million years thought I could lose 15 pounds. I never in a million years thought that doing all of this, I would have changed from this to this. And I did. And I kind of just like sat back and I was like, can I do this forever? Can I never eat Chick-fil-A again in my life? Can I never eat a piece of bread or a bagel again in my life? Can I sustain a lifestyle where I do an hour and a half of cardio every single day? Can I live my life in a way that I look in the mirror and I still don't like what I see? I did all of these things, all of this restrictive lifestyles to look in the mirror and like what I saw, and I didn't. Still. And that's when the light bulb went off. That's when I was like, okay, I need to change something. Something has to change. And keep in mind, during all of this, no one knew that any of this was going on. And I think that's really important to note. Whether you're watching this and you knew me during that time period, you didn't know I was going through it, or whatever the case may be, I hid it well. because I didn't see anything wrong with it. I didn't know that I was doing this to myself. I didn't know that I was leading such a restrictive lifestyle. All of these subconscious thoughts that I was having in my mind, I never vocalized them to anyone. I never told anyone, oh, I shouldn't eat that cookie or I'm going to gain weight, but I thought it in my brain. So no one could have helped me. No one could have stopped me because no one knew I was going through it. I needed to come to the realization that I couldn't live this lifestyle forever. I needed to be the one to look myself in the mirror and be like, Marissa, get a hold of your life. If you want to change, then change. And then I sat back and I was like, okay, what can I do to start making active strides in the right direction? And while this was going on, keep in mind, I had one of the best soccer seasons of my entire life. While I was going through this like major mental crisis in my head of not liking what I saw in the mirror, no one knowing that besides maybe just Timmy, nobody knew. And I was going through all of these exciting things in my life. I was doing really well in school. I was playing really well in soccer and no one knew. And that's not their fault. I didn't want them to know. I didn't even really know. And so I was like, get a hold of your life. What do you want? Do you want to be this big? And do you want to do 1.5 hours of cardio every day for the rest of your life? Do you want to never eat Chick-fil-A again? Do you want to look at a cookie and feel like it's the worst thing that you could put into your body? And I was like, no, I don't. And that's when the process of getting to where I am now started. And I'm not gonna lie to you, it hasn't been easy and it's still not easy at all. I slowly but surely started to take the amount of cardio that I did off. It was not easy because keep in mind I was still a junior in college and I was still very much needed to be in shape for the sport that I played. I absolutely adore soccer and it is a very running intensive sport. And I needed to be in good cardio shape to be able to play that sport. And so I couldn't cut cardio out of my training altogether, but I also didn't need to do 1.5 hours of it every single day to be successful. And that was the realization that I needed to come to on my own. I started to wean off of cardio little bit by little bit. I started to increase the amount of strength training that I was doing a little bit. I started to develop a workout split that I liked and that worked. I didn't go to the gym every single day. If I had a really late game the night before, I wouldn't go to the gym the next day. I would give myself the opportunity to rest and to recover. I started to slowly but surely feel more comfortable eating things like bread and eating things like fries or cookies. And I am not going to sit here and say to you that this happened overnight. It did not. And I would still very much have those intrusive thoughts and have those intrusive feelings, and it's like you have that angel and the devil on your shoulder and the angel's telling you like you can do it, go eat the burger if you want the burger, and then the devil's telling you, well, you're going to be fat if you do it. That is kind of how I felt. I was battling myself and I didn't realize that I was doing it. And so slowly and surely I started to fix it. And now, flash forward to now, it's been a work in progress since my middle of junior year, all through senior year into now. I am graduated from college. It has been a work in progress ever since that point. I am the heaviest I have ever weighed in my life. I thought that 140 pounds was a ridiculous amount of weight, and it never was. I was unhappy with myself because I was unhappy with myself, and I was in a very bad place mentally. And that is why I thought 140 pounds was heavy. 140 pounds is not heavy, and I want you to know that, and I want you to know if you're listening and you are having these same thoughts, you're not heavy. Your mind is trying to convince you that you are, but you're not. I now weigh 147 pounds. This is the first time that I've weighed myself in probably about a year. I stopped weighing myself altogether because I had a very unhealthy relationship with the scale, and I would get in my head depending on what it said. If I thought that it was supposed to say one thing and then it said another, I would beat myself up. If I thought that I was gaining muscle and then I didn't see anything on the scale change, I would beat myself up. I stopped weighing myself altogether. I went to the doctor's a few weeks ago and I weighed myself for the first time and I saw that the number was 147 pounds. I am the heaviest that I have ever weighed in my life. And I'm the happiest, and I genuinely believe the most fit that I have ever been in my whole life. I now have a workout split that I love and I am passionate about and gets me up and excited to get my day going every single day. I go to the gym now anywhere from 5 to 6 days a week. I do about 30 minutes of cardio every single day, sometimes more, sometimes less. It kind of depends on how I'm feeling, but 30 minutes is kind of standard. I go to the gym 5 days. Mondays I typically do chest, bis, and tris. Tuesdays I normally do glutes and hamstrings. Wednesday is kind of a total upper body day. Thursdays I do shoulders and back, which y'all already know are my favorite day. Fridays I do legs, and Saturdays is typically a full body day. If for some reason on one of those days I don't get to the gym, I also don't beat myself up anymore. I am mending my relationship with food. It is important for me to stress that because I have not fixed my relationship with food. I'm mending it. It is a work in progress. I still very much get those thoughts sometimes of thinking something is good and something is bad and that I should pick one option over another. And I don't know how long that will take to go away, and I don't know if it will ever go away. And I think it's really important for me to be completely honest and completely authentic with you when I say that, because I am not going to sit here and say that I'm this total and complete now perfect package, that I have fixed my relationship with food and I fixed it with exercise. It's not the case at all. I still beat myself up if I don't feel like I got a good workout in that day. I still beat myself up if I feel like I didn't eat well enough. I am not by any means completely healed from that broken relationship. And I don't know if I ever will be, but I know I'm going to keep working on it every single day. I think it's really important to talk about all of those bad things that I got through, because you guys hear me talk about all of the things that I go through now all of the time on my page and on my stories and on my Instagram. And I'm happy to share those things with you. I'm happy to share all of my workouts now. But what I went through is the reason that I am here. I had to hit rock bottom and to look myself in the mirror and literally be like, Marissa, please change your life for me to be able to do it. And it still took me a little bit. It wasn't an overnight fix. I wish that I could say like, wow, I needed to change and boom, changed. Not at all. And it still isn't that way. I still beat myself up all the time. I still have good days and bad days with exercise. Still sometimes I feel like I'm not good enough. I still sometimes look at the mirror and I'm like, ugh. And I think that's always gonna happen. And I think everyone goes through that. And I think it's really important, and I think what I know now that the Marissa 2 years ago didn't know is that you're the only you. And that this is a lifestyle. And no one can tell you that you're not good enough the way that you are. And you can't let yourself convince yourself that you're not good enough the way you are. Because no one told me I wasn't good enough. I convinced myself of that. No one told me, oh, Marissa, you're overweight. I convinced myself of that. And I think that's what I need to stress is your brain can sometimes be your worst enemy. I needed to prove to myself that I was worthy of being loved the way that I was. And that there was never anything wrong with me, even when I thought that there was. I don't think I'm completely healed from my broken relationship with food and exercise, but I've mended it drastically. So I want to wrap it up so I'm not talking for 3,700 years, because I know that I have a habit of rambling. But I think it took me a really long time to talk about this because it's very hard for me to talk about. It is very hard for me to be honest and authentic about my own story. I can encourage you guys all day, every day, without a question in my mind. But it's very, very hard for me to talk about my own journey because it's not all things that I'm proud of. But I'm very happy that I came out on the other side of it. I'm very happy that I now know that what I was going through was not okay, and that I don't want anyone to go through those same things that I did. So what I need to stress to you is that if you feel like you're getting into those habits, I was maybe eating like 1,200 to 1,500 calories before. I am now eating anywhere from 2,000 and up calories on a normal day, most likely. I was burning probably anywhere from 2,000 calories a day. And while that's probably about the same now, it's very different the way that I structure it and just how I treat my body now. If you feel like you're falling into this trap, look in the mirror and be like, can I do this forever? Can I live this lifestyle forever? Do I want to live this way forever? Am I happy with myself? Am I doing all of these things and I'm still not content? Because that's what happened to me. I was looking in the mirror and I was like, this still isn't good enough. I've done all this work and I still don't like it. And that's when the reality hit. And that's when I started fixing my relationship to get to where I am now. It's not a perfect picture by any means, but it's a work in progress. And you can be a work in progress and a masterpiece all at the same time. And that's the biggest thing that I've told myself this past year and a half while I fixed my relationship. I know that I could go on for 300 more years, and if you guys have more specific questions, please feel free to drop them down in the comments down below. I'd be happy to talk to you guys. I'd be happy to do another video about all of this stuff if there's questions specifically about it that I can get to and get to answer, but I want to make sure it's not a bajillion years long. So if you like this video, make sure you go ahead and give it a big thumbs up. You know it supports my channel. If you haven't already, make sure that you subscribe so you never miss another video that I post, and you can help your girl get to 4K, because you know I would just love it so much. If you haven't already, make sure that you follow me on my Instagram so you can see all the other fitness, health, and lifestyle content that I post on there, and I will catch you guys here next time.